their shared racism and bigotry and far-right views. But over the budget bill that went through, Musk thinks too much money was being added to the debt. He's probably right about the debt numbers. He's claimed he's going to fund an America third party, which would be nonsensical. Andrew, you know better than me. It cannot work in the two-party system in the United States with the Electoral College to have a third party. Look, if he does, Musk start funding.
If you think the political drama in Washington couldn't get any bigger, wait until you hear this. Mehdi Hasan absolutely tears into Tulsi Gabbard, calls out the Trump camp, and then turns his attention to Democrats, questioning why they're struggling to respond to one of the biggest political stories in the country. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We're going to watch the full clip, break down the biggest moments, and then I'll give you my thoughts at the end. Let's get right into it.
Mehdi, great to have you here. First of all, your take on this new row, because by and large, Barack Obama, keeps his peace, doesn't jump out, isn't very vocal on social media, but this has really got under his skin.
Yeah, I was surprised, Andrew, and thanks for having me, to see the Obama spokesman put out the statement yesterday. With Trump, it's always a problem, right? You can't respond to every crazy thing that he says, and he says a lot of crazy things, a lot of authoritarian things, a lot of racist things, a lot of insane things. But obviously this bothered Obama. He's being accused of treason. They're using the intelligence community to do it. Tulsi Gabbard is a willing enabler. She's the director of national intelligence. She's a former Democratic congresswoman who defected to the Republican Party, to Trump and MAGA. She got in trouble earlier this year because she said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon, undermining Trump's attack on Iran, and Trump threw her under the bus. This is her attempt, in my view, to claw back credibility within Trump world and MAGA. She's giving him this on a plate, as you say, at a time when he's under a lot of pressure from his own base about Jeffrey Epstein. So what does he do? What does he give the base? He gives them the red meat they love. Obama, Clinton, emails, treason. They love all this stuff. And it's not based on anything substantive. The Washington Post did a very good deep dive into what she's claiming about Obama having covered up real intelligence about Russia and having exaggerated Russia's involvement in hacking the DNC and other aspects of the 2016 election. But 4 inquiries were done, Andrew, including under the Trump first term, all of which came to the agreement that Russia did have a role in meddling in the 2016 election. So it's just old stuff. Trump is a master of bringing about the old hits for his crowd.
Deflection, distraction. Just listening to you there, Mehdi, recount the events of a couple of days was exhausting. I mean, you are now living with this. You've made yourself one of the key sort of Trump critics and inquisitors of Trump land. Is it totally exhausting, or are you just enjoying every minute of it? I know you're not a man to run away. You like an argument.
It is. I do like an argument, and I just did a big debate with a bunch of Trump supporters that went viral. But I'll tell you this, it is exhausting. It is mentally and emotionally exhausting, both as a journalist, as an immigrant, as a Muslim. Like, I wear a lot of hats that the MAGA base and Trump folks don't like. And it is very exhausting. I'm bringing up 2 children in the United States. In this country right now, we are 6 months into Trump's second term. Ask anyone here, supporter or critic, it feels like 6 years of Trump. That's how much he's thrown, to quote Steve Bannon, he's flooded the zone with excrement, I think was the phrase, I'll use politely phrase, that Bannon used a few years ago. That's what he does every day. It's a new shiny object for people to chase after, something controversial, something illegal, something racist, something just completely insane.
And yet, in terms of the real world, he's run into the buffers in many cases on his tariff agenda. He's still striking deals, but this upending of the entire world economy with tariffs hasn't worked. I've noticed he hasn't yet invaded and taken over Canada or Greenland. In many respects, as it were, the more extreme parts of his original agenda have fallen to one side. So is he, in your view, as it were, now looking at his place in history, is he thinking about who's going to take over for him, or is he simply living day to day?
No, Donald Trump lives day to day. I mean, people around him are surely strategizing, the Stephen Millers, the Steve Bannons. In fact, Steve Bannon has talked openly about trying to find a way for him to serve a third term, which would be unconstitutional under the 22nd Amendment. Trump himself has kind of toyed with it and played with that idea. He loves to kind of troll people. He said he's not ruling it out. So in that sense, legacy-wise, Trump wants to stay on the scene. But right now, it's a survival game for him. This is the first, just to make it clear to your listeners and viewers in the UK, this is the first Trump scandal In 10 years, I've been following this man since he came down the escalator in 2015 and declared his candidacy for president. This is the first scandal, Andrew, the Epstein scandal, which is being led by his own base. This is not Democrats, leftists, liberals.
Yeah.
Who came up
So
with
this is
his own supporters furious at him for violating the pledge that he said he would release the Epstein files, and now discovering, oh, wow, our guy, our leader, he was actually best friends with Epstein.
And you can see, sort of watching and listening to Trump at the moment, that he himself is unsettled and unnerved a bit by this Epstein stuff. You know, he keeps referring to how stupid it is and how irritating it is. You can tell that he doesn't enjoy any second of it. Let me ask you, however, Mehdi, about the other side. Let me ask you about the Democrats, because over here we hear absolutely nothing about them, really. It's as if they had all gone to sleep or been euthanized as a party. There are people out there, the new guy in New York, AOC and others, but by and large, we hear nothing. What's your prognosis?
I think you spelled it out brilliantly there, Andrew. You hear nothing in the UK. Well, I'll tell you what, you hear nothing in the US too. They are silent. The leadership is failing miserably. The Democratic base is in uproar against its own leadership. The polls show anywhere between 60% and 80% of Democrats want a change of leadership in their party. They're not happy with the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. They're not happy with the House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. They're not happy with a lot of these mainstream Democrats who've just rolled over for Trump, who have stayed silent, stayed on the sidelines, haven't really taken the fight to Trump. When the New York mayoral candidate, who you mentioned, Zoran Mamdani, who won the New York mayoral primary, this 32-year-old Muslim immigrant who's won this candidacy, Democratic Socialist, Andrew, running for mayor. They haven't even endorsed him. He won by a landslide, and the party leadership has refused to endorse their own candidate in New York, which has enraged even centrist Democrats who are saying, what is going on here? Where is the leadership of the opposition? You're in the UK, where you have an opposition party, you have a shadow front bench, you have people shadowing government portfolios. We don't have that here. So Trump can kind of do all sorts of craziness to the aid department, to the State Department, to the education department, and there are not Democrats forensically, strategically, relentlessly standing up to him on all of those fronts.
So, final question, thinking of opposition, one person he had standing alongside him all the way through, who has now gone into opposition, in effect, is Elon Musk. How serious is it for Donald Trump if he starts to lose the support of the tech bros? I know there are other tech bros worming their way in already, but nonetheless, you know, this has been a fundamental alliance.
Yes, and we saw at the inauguration, they were all lined up behind him in prime spots. The Bezoses, the Zuckerbergs, Sam Altmans, Elon Musk, they were all there. Musk and Trump have fallen out bizarrely over this budget bill, not over kind of their shared racism and bigotry and far-right views, but over the budget bill that went through. Musk thinks too much money was being added to the debt. He's probably right about the debt numbers. He's claimed he's going to fund an America third party, which would be nonsensical. Andrew, you know better than me. It cannot work in the two-party system in the United States with the Electoral College to have a third party. Look, if he does, Musk start funding.
Look, these are just my immediate thoughts after watching that interview. But I think Mehdi Hasan made a point that a lot of people have been thinking for quite some time. If you were watching American politics from here in the UK, you could genuinely be forgiven for wondering whether the Democratic Party has simply disappeared. Where is the opposition? Where is the urgency? On one of the biggest political stories in the country, they're barely making any noise. Instead, Republicans and MAGA supporters have shifted the conversation toward accusations involving Barack Obama, while Democrats seem completely unable to seize the moment. Whether you agree with Mehdi Hasan or not, his criticism is that the party isn't meeting the political moment, and that's a message that's clearly resonating with a lot of frustrated voters. This could have been an opportunity for Democratic leaders to rebuild confidence, show a united front, and aggressively challenge the Trump administration's messaging. Instead, many critics argue they've looked passive and reactive. That's why so many people are calling for stronger voices within the party, people willing to debate, defend their positions, and take the fight directly to their political opponents instead of constantly playing defense. On the Trump side, one thing also stood out. If there's any issue that appears to be creating real discomfort, it's the fact that questions continue to come from within parts of his own political coalition. When criticism comes from your opponents, that's expected. But when it comes from people who have supported you for years, that's a very different challenge altogether, and it's much harder to dismiss. As for Tulsi Gabbard, a lot of critics believe she's made a major political gamble by embracing this latest controversy. If those allegations fail to gain traction, people are inevitably going to ask whether it was worth tying herself so closely to that strategy in the first place. As always, Mehdi Hasan never shies away from making his views known, and whether you agree with him or disagree with him, he certainly gets people talking. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree with Mehdi Hasan's assessment, or do you see things differently? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more political commentary, and I'll see you in the next one.